Hello, everyone. This is just an intro to the podcast you're about to hear. Just to say that I am now doing podcasts on Spotify and on YouTube. If you could please like, share, and subscribe, and please consider contributing financially at coffee.com. That would be of tremendous help to me and everyone else in the world, I'd like to think. Also, if you can please look to get involved and come on or put me in touch with people. Creativity, well-being, history, politics, and financial survival, cost of living crisis kind of issues. That would be wonderful. If you want to come on and help out in any way, that would be great too. Also, all of my old episodes have now been uploaded onto YouTube, so you can listen there through my YouTube channel, North and South Podcasts. So, podcasts are available on YouTube and Spotify. Spread the word, and thanks for continuing to listen. Well over 1,000 listens through Audio Boom, plus the listens on YouTube as well. So, continuing to grow, and I really appreciate all your help and support. Hi everyone, welcome to North and South Podcasts. This is Tim speaking. This is a Wellbeing podcast in association with Hope Street. Today I'm going to talk about two things which are linked to equanimity, which I did a few weeks ago. First of all, I'm going to talk to you about triggers, and then I'm going to talk to you about what I call the 24 or 48 hour rule. Now, triggers are things that usually cause you to feel a strong reaction. They trigger a certain emotion in you. And I'm not talking about things that trigger trauma from the past, although it can be linked to that. I'm talking about things that just really, really rub you up the wrong way, that possibly someone close to you keeps doing, and or someone whose family or someone you work with, someone you have to interact with a lot, will say or do something which can be a trigger. Now, I know that all over the world, there's people who have got radically different opinions to me, and I know that they're out there, and I accept that, and I don't have to interact with them. When any of those people start to come into my kind of field of awareness, for want of a better way of putting it, all of a sudden, my kind of gatherer hunter, egotistical mind that likes to feel in control of things doesn't like that. And I remember the first time I saw a vote Conservative sign when I worked in Southport. And again, people can vote for whoever they like. That was a real shock to me because I'd never seen it before. Where I grew up in Liverpool and where I went to uni in Stoke, you never saw vote Conservative signs. I was like, whoa. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing them. Now, when I first went to uni, I met Conservatives for the first time. And that was interesting because now I had to think about what I believed and challenge myself. And also, I had to see what they thought as well and accept that they thought differently to me. And that was quite interesting as well. Joining political groups, organisations, you often hear people who are in of different opinions to you, and again, that's okay, that's fine, etc. You'll also find people who might not just click with you for personality reasons, and again, that's okay because we're not all the same. But it's about knowing what your triggers are. Some people, social media triggers them, and I find Twitter in particular abhorrent for just appalling behaviour. And I don't use it. I do use it for this podcast, but I don't really engage in any of the Twitter talk as it is. And I know it makes people feel better going on at that egotistical, getting one over on the other side, all that crap. Not interested in that. It just makes me feel bad when I do it. If it makes you feel better overall, then either A, there's something wrong with you, or B, you're just a better person than me. Probably the latter. But, get on with it, enjoy, knock yourself out. But you will have people close to you, family, friends, work colleagues, people you live with, whatever, who will say and do things that wind you up. Sometimes it might be like leaving the toilet seat up and down, and you can think about that and say, well, I accept that and I accept they're not going to change, or I'm going to address that and say, make a request in this way, but I'm not going to let it get to me. That can be very powerful, and that's what equanimity is all about, which is what I discussed a few weeks ago on this podcast. But in particular, I'm going to talk about triggers, and I'm also going to talk about the 24-48 hour rule, which I'll explain to you in a minute. So triggers are good in a way because when things happen around you, a trigger can get you to deal with the situation. But we're talking here about triggers that aren't like life threatening, but there's a behaviour that just rubs you up the wrong way, and we're looking here at how we might address those further. When I drive, I try not to get wound up. I'll sometimes say something to think something, but I try not to get animated and let it take over me. And what we're not trying to do here is change the physiological response that you feel when someone cuts you up or whatever, or winds you up. You might still have that emotion inside you, that chemical thing, but it's how you then let it translate into a behaviour that is counterproductive, or you let it filter into your subconscious or even your conscious mind, and then it starts to take over your life. That's where it becomes dangerous. So we're going to look at how we might manage those things a little bit differently. So first of all, we'll look at triggers. Now, triggers, some people believe they've got no control over how they respond to triggers. That's not true. And if you think like that, you need to get beyond that. And I won't be holding my breath, but you do need to get beyond that, okay? Now, I have days when I experience lots of triggers, and sometimes it affects me. And the key thing is, I don't make it worse. I can't control what other people do and say. I can control what I do and say to a degree, and I can respond accordingly in a way that makes the situation better. So, imagine I'm talking about politics or football, and I'm trying to have a rational and calm debate with someone, and they just keep coming back at you with like Fox TV, Donald Trump like comments, animal brain talk, outrageous comments which are designed to drag things into the gutter. What should you do there? Say, right, I'm not going to get triggered by that. I'm going to stay calm, smile, shake my head. You know, that's how they're choosing to behave. I'll deal with it. You might be able to get away from them or whatever. If you can't, don't look like you're too bothered by it. Just shake your head in disgust if you need to, and try not to look too phased. Now, it might also be that you might live with someone and they're edging past you in the kitchen, and you feel like when they're trying to get past you, you move out the way, but when you try and get past them, they don't. And you might feel that they get wound up when other people are in the kitchen. You think, well, when I'm in the kitchen, I accept that other people might be in the kitchen. Stay neutral and keep calm. Don't get involved in that. If necessary, say, I'll come back a bit later if you want. Try and come up with a solution, and don't you make the situation worse. Okay? Sometimes you'll be worried about finances, and sometimes you'll be thinking, what am I going to do? Often that mood just makes things 10 times worse. So do some journaling, check your mood, journal about the issue, put it to one side and say, right, I'll come back to it later and I'll think about it. And then you'll often find when you're thinking about things like finances, when you've written it down and come up with a little bit of a plan, you feel better. Other times you'll feel bad, and it might be that that bad mood will always interpret whatever's going on as bad. Be aware of that as well and accept that is how the mind is and that is how we are. Also, someone will say something, maybe criticise you, and you might be someone who's susceptible to criticism, but you could say to them, I'm feeling a bit defensive here with the way you've just done that. Or and say like, are you saying such and such? Shall I such and such? Just try to stay neutral. Doesn't mean that you're weak, it just means that you're assertive. Very, very hard when you feel people are criticising you. And also when you rush for time, you think, I haven't got time to deal with this. That's often a good excuse to just slip into your animal brain and get triggered. Also, you might live with people who just do things a certain way, and you might still not accept the way they do it. You might say, listen, such and such and such and such. Think about whether it's really worth it, and just whatever you do, don't make it worse and don't get wound up. You can still state your case nice and calm. Don't let them triggers dominate your life. And in particular, don't let them triggers make you into an easily wound up, bitter person, because that's just no way to live. One thing that can help with triggers and one thing that can help with equanimity is the idea that the 24-48 hour rule, which I've seen in a few things. If there's a crisis, you're in a room with a tiger, you need to get out of there quick, and then you need to close the door. That's where your fight and flight response is useful. Now, the fight and flight response is designed to keep us alive. That's why we're here. That's why we often feel anxious when there's no reason to, because what's going on around me? That's your animal brain trying to keep you alert to risk and danger. That shouldn't dominate you all the time, no. The fight or flight response might more accurately be called the fight, flight, freeze, or, and then there's another F word response, because it takes you to that kind of mindset. It does have its uses. However, for some of the problems in our lives that we're talking about, you need to engage your rational brain. Now, the rational brain can be just as much an enemy as the animal brain to serenity and calm, because the rational brain can make problems worse by overthinking. The animal brain doesn't tend to overthink, it tends to respond inappropriately like that, quickly. The rational mind, the, if you like, cerebral mind, can often think about stuff too much and then just make it worse, and then that feeds into the animal brain's response, can cause anxiety, etc. But generally speaking, the rational brain is where you want to be considering these things. Think of a response, attempt it, and then move on. Try not to dwell too much on it. Now, it's hard sometimes. So the rational brain is more long term, and it's able to make decisions and think about optimum results. Okay? It's better to be solution focused and rational, and this means that you might consider things and think about things a little bit to move forward. And that's where 24-48 hours, after something's happened, give it 24-48 hours to weigh things up. Now, emotions can be raw. Your animal brain's triggered. You might feel anger. You might do something that doesn't help. I did something yesterday emotionally, or the day before yesterday, that didn't help. And I'm now aware of that. So give it a few hours, 24-48, to react. Maybe speak to others, do your journal. It might be that you can't extricate yourself from the situation you're in. It might be someone very close, a situation that you just can't get away from. Maybe speak to someone else about it and still try and think things through as much as possible. Forgive the other person and say, I'll come back to it later when the time is right. Now, you might not need 24 hours. It might be a few hours later you think, okay, I'm a bit calm now. Here's, I think, what I need to do. Then take the action. And then if any other actions arise, use the same process again. But don't let these things tear you apart. Swim around inside your head. Journal them. Give it 24-48 hours. Move away. Think things through. Relax. Try your relaxation techniques. Go on a walk. Come up with your strategies to help. Speak to someone else. Then think of what we do to move forward. So maintaining equanimity is what we want to do. Knowing your triggers. Say it when it happens. This is a trigger. What am I going to do? What's my strategy? What's my coping mechanism? How do I stay calm in this situation? Write them down, what the triggers are. I've got mine in front of me here. I've just alluded to some of them. Then use the 24-48 hour rule. If you're still wound up after 48 hours, what do you do next? Right there, just a few little thoughts on dealing with stressful situations. Equanimity, triggers, the 24-48 hour rule. Do I do all of these? Do I hell? But I do find strategies help, and often it's when I don't use the strategies I know about that I think later I should have employed those strategies. So good luck, folks. Let me know how it goes, and keep getting better every single day.